Beyond the rivers, beyond the roads, beyond the reach of satellites and cities, there are still people who have chosen to remain unseen. Deep in the heart of South America, where the canopy rises so high it swallows the sky and the mist never fully lifts from the ground, lies a world that time has not yet claimed. A world without highways, without signals, without noise. The Amazon, the greatest rainforest on Earth, ancient beyond reckoning, alive beyond measure. From above, it appears endless, an unbroken sea of green stretching to every horizon, interrupted only by the dark, winding threads of rivers that have carried life since before the first human civilization rose and fell. Drone and satellite have mapped its edges, traced its rivers, catalogued its trees, but they have not reached everything. Some corridors remain untouched, some clearings carry no name, some fires burn in places no map has ever marked. And around those fires sit people who were here long before the maps existed, people who have chosen, generation after generation, to remain beyond the reach of the modern world. They are not lost, they are not waiting to be found, they are exactly where they have always been. Hidden by the forest they call home, protected by the density of a jungle that has guarded them for thousands of years. The last isolated tribes. In some of the most inaccessible regions of the Amazon, small communities continue to live as their ancestors did, by choice, by necessity, and by history. Brazil alone is estimated to harbor more than 100 uncontacted or voluntarily isolated tribal groups, according to FUNAI, the Brazilian government agency responsible for indigenous affairs. They live primarily in the remote western Amazon, in territories so dense and so deliberately difficult to navigate that even experienced forest workers cannot enter without guidance. Some of these communities have never made peaceful contact with the outside world. Others made contact once, witnessed what it brought, and withdrew permanently behind the forest's protection. Their isolation is not ignorance, it is memory. A memory that carries the weight of centuries of violence, disease, and dispossession. A memory that has taught them, at the deepest level of collective understanding, one truth above all others. The forest is safer than the world beyond it. These are not relics of the past. They are living cultures with languages, governance, spiritual practice, agricultural knowledge, and social bonds as complex and as meaningful as any civilization that has ever existed. They are simply invisible to a world that has grown accustomed to believing that what it cannot see does not exist. Daily life in the deep forest. They do not simply survive in the rainforest, they understand it. Every plant has a purpose, every sound carries meaning. As children of the Amazon grow up in a school without walls. From the age they can walk, they learn to read the forest the way other children learn to read books. A broken branch reveals the direction an animal traveled. The color of river water speaks of what lies upstream. The call of a bird at a particular hour carries a message about weather, danger, or the movement of other animals through the trees. By the time a child raised in one of these communities reaches adolescence, they carry within them an encyclopedia of knowledge that took their ancestors thousands of years to compile. They know which leaves reduce fever, which roots sustain energy through a long hunt, which insects, when disturbed, announce the proximity of a larger predator nearby. This is not folklore, this is science refined across countless generations of careful, unbroken observation. Communal life is the foundation of survival. Villages are built with purpose and precision. The Yanomami, one of the largest relatively isolated peoples in the Amazon, spanning the border region between Brazil and Venezuela, construct their villages as large circular communal structures called chabonos, built entirely from forest materials. Every beam, every woven leaf, every length of vine chosen with knowledge that goes far beyond what any modern architect carries to a drawing table. The structure shelters dozens of families beneath one roof, binding the community together in every act of daily life. Hunting, fishing, gathering, and tending small agricultural plots fill the days. Knowledge passes not through books, but through hands, through demonstration, through the patient repetition of skill across generations. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is taken without awareness of what must remain for tomorrow. The Amazon as a living supermarket. The forest provides, but only to those who know how to listen. To the untrained eye, the Amazon rainforest is a wall of green with no direction and no logic. To those who have lived within it for thousands of years, it is a supermarket, a pharmacy, a library, and a temple, all at once. The Awa people of the eastern Amazon carry working knowledge of over 200 plant species used for medicine, food, and ceremony. The Matsé people of Peru and Brazil hunt with blowguns and darts coated in curare, a plant-derived toxin so precisely understood in its preparation that it paralyzes prey without contaminating the meat. Fish are gathered using barbasco, a plant extract that temporarily stuns fish in a section of river, allowing them to be collected by hand before the current carries them to recover downstream. Not a single technique wastes life beyond what is needed. Rotational agriculture ensures that the soil is never exhausted. Seasonal movement follows the rhythms of fruiting trees, or migrating animals, and rising river levels. The forest is not exploited, it is tended, and in return, it gives everything these communities need to live long, healthy, and complete lives. Researchers studying the terra preta, the extraordinarily fertile dark earth found throughout the Amazon, have concluded that it was created by indigenous agricultural practice over thousands of years. The land these communities have worked and lived on for millennia is, quite literally, almost richer for their presence. Why they remain isolated for many, isolation is not mystery, it is protection. Contact once brought disease, conflict, and collapse. The forest became their shield. The history of contact between Amazonian tribes and the outside world is not a gentle story. During the rubber boom of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, entire indigenous communities were enslaved, massacred, or driven from their territories by force. Missionaries brought faith, but also illness. Colonists brought roads, but also destruction. Every wave of outside contact, almost without exception, arrived bearing more devastation than it intended, and disease above all. When an isolated community meets the outside world, even a brief and apparently friendly encounter can carry invisible catastrophe. Isolated peoples have no immunity to common respiratory viruses that urban populations carry without consequence. Researchers have documented cases where tribes exposed to common colds lost significant portions of their population within months. The body simply has no defense against pathogens it has never encountered. For communities, sometimes numbering only in the dozens, a single outbreak can mean the end of an entire people, an entire language, an entire way of understanding the world. This is why isolation, for those who choose it, is not a rejection of humanity. It is the most rational possible response to history. The threat's closing in, but the forest is shrinking, and with it, the space where silence still protects them. Illegal logging operations cut roads into previously impenetrable forest, erasing in hours what nature spent centuries building. The roads bring more than loggers. They bring prospectors, ranchers, and settlers, each pulling the boundary of the modern world deeper into territory that was never theirs to enter. Illegal gold mining, particularly devastating in the Yanomami territory, poisons rivers with mercury that enters the food chain at every level. The fish carry it. The people who eat the fish carry it. The land remembers it for decades. Since the 1960s, more than 20% of the Amazon has been destroyed. Scientists warn that if current rates of deforestation continue, the forest will reach a tipping point, beyond which it cannot recover, where it begins to dry, to fragment, to collapse inward. When that happens, the communities hidden within it will have nowhere left to hide. Every tree that falls is not only a tree, it is cover, it is shelter, it is a corridor of safety for people whose lives depend on the density and wholeness of the world around them. Contact, a point of no return. One meeting can change everything. A handshake can carry more than words. It can carry a future they never chose. The debate over whether to make contact with isolated tribes is one of the most ethically charged conversations in modern anthropology. On one side, some argue that contact is inevitable and that managed, careful engagement is safer than accidental, uncontrolled encounter. On the other, organizations like Survival International and FUNAI maintain that the right to remain isolated must be absolute. Contact cannot be offered without the full, free, and prior consent of the community involved. And consent cannot be given by a people who do not yet know what they are consenting to. The Mashco-Piro people of the Peruvian Amazon have, in recent years, made selective, voluntary approaches to neighboring communities along riverbanks, trading for metal tools or observing outsiders. At a distance, they determine to be safe, then withdrawing again on their own terms. These moments are not the beginning of assimilation. They are expressions of sovereignty. The Mashco Piro decide when, how, and how much contact occurs. That power, that agency, is the difference between cultural continuity and cultural collapse. Every forced or premature contact risks not just individual lives, but the irreplaceable knowledge those lives carry. When a language disappears, a unique way of understanding reality disappears with it. When a tribe is destroyed, a library built across 10,000 years of intimate relationship with the living world is burned to ash in a single generation. The role of protected zones. Lines drawn on maps may be the only barrier between survival and disappearance. In 2011, the Brazilian government formally established the Javari Valley Indigenous Territory as a protected zone, spanning approximately 8.5 million hectares in the western Amazon along the border with Peru. It is home to at least 8 confirmed uncontacted groups and several others whose existence has only ever been glimpsed from aircraft. This land is protected, not because it is empty, but precisely because it is full of life that must not be disturbed. FUNAI maintains monitoring stations at the territory's edges, tracking signs of illegal intrusion and mapping the movements of isolated communities from a respectful distance. The work is underfunded, often dangerous, and quietly heroic. The field workers who dedicate their lives to protecting boundaries they are themselves forbidden to cross represent a rare kind of commitment, or one that asks nothing from the people it protects and demands everything from those who carry it out. But protected status on paper does not automatically mean protection on the ground. Boundaries are crossed, authorities are slow to respond, and the communities within those boundaries have no way to call for help. The forest as their last defense. In a world mapped by satellites and signals, their greatest ally remains something ancient: the density of the jungle itself. Geography has always been the first line of defense. Many isolated communities position their settlements deliberately along river bends or between tributaries that make outside approach extremely difficult. Dense undergrowth, seasonally flooded lowlands, and hidden pathways that can only be navigated by those who know them make unannounced entry nearly impossible. The forest cooperates with this strategy, closing behind those who move through it, swallowing trails within days of their creation, while turning the landscape itself into a guardian. Reports from FUNAI field workers over the decades tell of isolated communities that have actively maintained this defense. Arrows fired in warning at survey aircraft, camps dismantled overnight and relocated deeper into the forest, river crossings made treacherous by deliberate modification of the landscape. These are not acts of aggression. They are acts of a people who remember what arrives when strangers come and who have chosen, with full clarity of intention, to keep the world at bay. The forest has protected them for thousands of years. As long as it stands, it will continue to do so. A future uncertain. The question is not whether they can survive in the Amazon. They always have. The question is whether the modern world will allow them to. Climate change presses in from above. Expanding infrastructure presses in from below. The Amazon is being asked to absorb pressures it was never designed to carry, and the communities within it are being asked to endure consequences they had no hand in creating. Rising temperatures shift the rainfall patterns that the entire forest depends on. Prolonged droughts dry out regions that were never dry before. Species vanish. Rivers narrow. The balance that has held for millennia begins, slowly and then rapidly, to shift. And yet awareness is growing. International attention to indigenous rights and Amazonian conservation has never been greater. Organizations, but researchers, and governments in growing numbers are recognizing what the evidence has long made clear. Where indigenous lands are protected, the forest survives. Where the people are supported, the ecosystem endures. The guardians of the forest are also, without design or intention, the guardians of the global climate. Closing message: guardians of the forest. They are not lost tribes. They are the last guardians of a world older than nations. And as long as the forest stands, so do they. As night falls over the canopy and the Amazon's infinite chorus rises into the dark, somewhere in the green immensity, a fire burns in a clearing that no map has ever named. Around it sit people whose ancestors sat around fires in that same forest for thousands of years. They speak in languages that no dictionary holds. They carry knowledge that no university has catalogued. They live by rhythms that the modern world has long since abandoned. They do not need to be found. They do not need to be saved. They need only one thing from the rest of the world: to be left in peace, in the forest they have always known, so that the ancient knowledge continues to live and the great green world around them continues to breathe. This is the Amazon. This is the story of its last isolated tribes, not a story of the past, but a warning and a wonder for the future, a reminder of what endures when human beings choose the forest over the city, the river over the road, and the ancient over the new. As long as the Amazon breathes, they breathe with it, and in protecting them, we protect something irreplaceable in ourselves.